Here is the situation. I have a whole hog coming, half a cow, from my sister's farm. I just placed my cut order, called the butcher, but right now we are down to all of the cuts of the meats that we don't really love all that much, the ones that sit in the freezer until we have nothing left to choose from. And I look at this kind of thing as a challenge. I want to cook from the things we have, the stuff that's in the pantry, the stuff that's in the garden, what's in the freezer. I like to do weeks like this every once in a while just to make sure that we don't waste anything. Get to all the stuff that's at the bottom of the bucket, the bottom of the freezer, and put it to good use. Now, as many of you know, my new sourdough book, Daily Sourdough, finally came out. So you can actually get that and it'll be shipped to you, not just pre-order. It is currently out. And today I'm going to dip into my flour reserves that we have to make some sourdough tortillas. So a lot of the meals this week that I'm going to show you what I'm making for my family are going to be using stuff from the pantry that I keep large supplies of before restocking. I just want to really challenge myself to use things. So a lot of sourdough items, I have everything on hand for those and they complement nicely some of my less favorite cuts of meat. So you can find this recipe in my new book, Daily Sourdough, over at homesteadliving.com/daily sourdough. I'll leave a link down in the description box below. I also found in my pantry, I did not have them in the place that I expected them to be. Beans, the white beans, and some split peas. So when I got some ham hocks in the Instant Pot this morning, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I thought maybe I'd make a pasta with some creamy sauce and peas, but then I checked my freezer and I had no peas left. So I decided instead to go with more of a ham and split pea soup type of thing. I used some ham hocks that were in the freezer, packaged and nicely labeled, and then one that I found in the inside freezer that was not nicely labeled, but it very much looked like a ham hock. And after completing all of this, yes, it was, and it was very good. On a Monday, I usually get a lot of things going. So I already had some bread going that I'm going to bake. I got some ham hocks in the Instant Pot and started on the beans and the split peas. I got that tortilla dough soaking and ready to go, or fermenting, and that will be something that I'll revisit tomorrow and make maybe some steak fajitas with that. Baking the bread that was already started from the day before. Getting several things going at once, especially with a large family, is never a bad idea. I think most people who cook from scratch, even if your family isn't large, when you're cooking at home and you're not, going out to eat or eating a lot of prepackaged foods, it's almost never a bad idea to just start another thing. Now, this could be a mom of 8 speaking, but I almost can't make too much food. So I just get a lot of things going, even if it's not something we're going to eat for that meal. Sometimes I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, but getting it, going in the Instant Pot, fermenting, baked, just keep the motion going. At some point, we will eat it, even if it has to simmer all day and we'll eat it later. For me, it's always a good idea to just keep on cooking. One thing that we rely on a lot is pantry staples. And today I'm going to take some salmon, canned salmon, and start with that, because the other meats that I'm preparing are going to take longer than I need them to, because we're going to need lunch. So this is a good fallback thing. Yes, I'm not really using the meats, but I'll be doing that the rest of this week. I just need something quick for lunch, and I can toss together 3 cans of salmon, some flour, eggs, diced onion, serve that with some crispy potatoes. It's a meal that everyone in my family really loves. It's high in protein, and it can be made with all the things that we almost always have in stock, but I occasionally just want to use up and then do a massive restock. I really prioritize healthy cooking, healthy living here in our home. One way that we also strive to create a healthy environment here in our farmhouse is by sourcing home products that are also health promoting. I want to say thank you to today's video sponsor, Birch Living. Birch crafts mattresses that are made with organic, natural materials. With Birch, you don't have to worry about the harmful off-gassing that can happen in the conventional manufacturing process of mattresses. We have 3 Birch mattresses here. We have one Queen Luxe which is a premium upgrade to the well-loved Birch Natural mattress. We also have 2 of the twin size regular Birch mattresses for the boys' room. And I love that their sleep environment is free from polyurethane foams. Birch mattresses are also free from unnecessary chemicals and pollutants. They never contain cheap, dangerous fiberglass, and instead they use 100% organic wool, harnessing its natural flame resistance. I sometimes feel hot when I sleep, so the organic materials keep me cool and regulate my body temperature. Also, the wool in these mattresses make it hypoallergenic and both allergen and mildew resistant. I love that the mattress is made with natural and organic materials sourced straight from nature, which are both comfortable and durable. You don't have to take my word for it, though. In a recent survey, 93% of customers would recommend Birch to a friend, and 87% saw an improvement in their sleep quality. 79% of those who suffered from back pain with their old mattress saw a reduction in pain with their Birch mattress. With your Birch mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial as well as a 25-year warranty, so that you can be sure what you are investing in for your home will last a long time and will suit your needs. I love my Birch mattress, and I think you would too. If you are looking for a new bed, make sure to check out Birch. They are currently running their fall bed sale, so it's the perfect time to upgrade your sleep with 20% off your Birch mattress plus 2 free EcoRest pillows with my link, birchliving.com/farmhouse. I'll also leave it in the description box below and the QR code that you can grab right here. Once that ham hock cooked most of the day, it's very tender and can pull easily from the bones. I thought I would make some cornbread with it. I like to take popcorn, put that in my grain mill, use that as sort of a cornmeal and make a cornbread, but I already had sourdough bread, so I'm just going to toast that and put it with the soup that I'm making. It's just going to be easier for this busy evening. So I'm also going to pour into the split peas and the beans that I've been simmering all day in water, the juices that the ham cooked in, because they're nice and salty and delicious. I found in my freezer a bag of chicken bones, so I'm going to add them in with the pork bones that were with the ham hock and make a conglomeration broth of pork and chicken stock. It'll gel up nicely and be wonderful. I'm just going to put that in the Instant Pot, and later this week, I'll have that for some kind of soup or something. I'm still doing stretch and folds throughout this day on my tortilla dough. You can knead it in a mixer and just get that kneading out of the way. For me, I like to mix up the dough, then throughout the day, go over to the bowl, give it a little stretch and fold. The gluten develops nicely that way, and it's just a way to make it really fast. So I whip up that dough and then just kind of visit it throughout the day. If I do 2 stretch and folds, if I do 5, either way, it turns out nicely. I'm going to divide that dough the next day after it's been fermenting for a while into 12 portions to make into tortillas. Now, it's very cold in my kitchen because we have not yet turned on the furnace. I'm kind of stubborn like that. When I see that it's going to be 80 degrees next week for the high, and I know that the house is going to get hot once again, I just can't turn on the furnace, because then I'd have a furnace going, then an AC going. Until it is fully cold at all times, we won't be turning on the furnace. That means that overnight it can get a little low, which is actually really nice for sourdough because it ferments very, very slowly. Now, once we have the furnace going all the time, I will overnight put a dough like this into the refrigerator to slow down that fermentation process. But that's the great thing about sourdough. It's very flexible. You can kind of work with, what your temperature is. Like if you notice before bed, oh, that dough is really puffy and it looks like it's almost done doubling, stash it in the fridge and then revisit it the next day. I also had quite a bit of deer meat in the freezer. Tastes delicious. My kids love deer steak, deer tenderloin, really any steak and tenderloin they love. It's funny because I was telling you last week, they don't like pumpkin soup. They have certain things that they don't like even when it's packed with sausage. But then something like deer steak, deer tenderloin, they love. They ate every last bit of. I just sliced it really thin, tried not to overcook it. That's where deer meat can go a little bit dry. Added lots of salt, lots of fat. And I saw, I let my kids make their own tacos, at least the older ones. I saw them just packing it with that deer meat. So we need to get more, and because we're all out now. We're all out of deer meat, and hunting season is just around the corner for us here. It's in November. So I'm feeling good with a nice empty freezer, knowing that we used up everything to the best of our ability and nothing went to waste. I'm looking forward to restocking and starting fresh. We also have tons of peppers and onions from our garden. So I'll saute those up, add in some tomatoes that we still have from the garden, and a nice little fajita dinner with all things that we have is... Oh, also, you might have noticed that I rolled out all the tortillas at once. The dough was very springy, and sometimes in order to relax the gluten and get them super thin, you have to kind of work it a little bit, then walk away, let it relax, and come back. That's what I was doing because they really wanted to keep shriveling up and shrinking back, and the thinner they are, the better they taste. Another thing we have a lot of right now in the fridge, and really honestly always, is carrots and celery. We didn't grow them, but I do like to keep them stocked in the fridge because they go with so many things. When in doubt, or when I have nothing else, I can add those and onions and whatever other vegetables I have to some fat, saute them, add broth, meat, beans, whatever kind of protein, and make a lovely soup. Now today, I'm going to do a vegetable soup. This isn't something we do a lot, but again, we're running really low on meat and I know we have a bunch coming. So I don't really want to go to the grocery store and buy a ton of stuff, knowing that we're about to do a really nice restock and have all of our options together again. But what we do have is a lot of cheese and a lot of sourdough bread because I get large quantities of cheese from Azure Standard. I just bulk up that order and it's a nice protein source. They have a high quality organic raw cheddar. We also have tons of green beans from the garden. So I think pairing this vegetable soup with a sourdough grilled cheese, they're really nice because you can dip the grilled cheese into the broth to make it a little bit softer. The kids really like that. We have a ton of broth that I made with the pork bones and the chicken bones and kind of cleaning out the freezer. I'm all out of bones now, but I have this lovely gelled up broth that has all of those great gut healthy benefits. So we got the protein from the bone broth and from the cheese, and then tons of veggies packed in this soup. Now, of course, this isn't a vegetarian soup because I'm using a meat broth, but like I said, this is a make it work week. And also we're not vegetarian, so that's no problem to me. I love adding in all of that good gelatinous broth to my kids' diet. I'm going to, of course, season with a lot of salt and pepper and then throw in some diced tomatoes from the garden. Now, I could also, if I'm making this in the winter, use a lot of canned tomatoes. But since we still haven't had our first frost, we are still working on those tomatoes. Now, my favorite way to cut sourdough bread is by cutting it in half right down the middle and then slicing it while the flat surface is against the counter. That's how I'm able to get very even slices in very workable sizes. When I cut the entire length of the bread, it's usually too big of a sandwich for most of my kids. It doesn't really fit into the pan. So these half slices to me are more like a regular slice of bread, like if you were to buy bread in a loaf from the store. So that's how I typically will do it. This bread is made with half whole grain wheat and half all purpose. I know I say that on here all the time, but that is my go-to. The reason for that is I'm getting the benefits of doing whole grain flour, but then also the bread is fluffy and feels, like regular bread because of the all-purpose. It's my happy little compromise to make, everybody happy. I go to my standard recipe all the time of 950 grams of flour. Now that's just a combination of, whatever flour. So usually for me, it's 475 whole wheat, 475 all-purpose, 650 grams of water, 200 grams of sourdough starter, and 20 grams of salt. I just make that over and over and over again. Don't have to think about it. I can do it, without hardly any extra effort at all, just because I am so used to making that recipe. With that being said, I'm going to make it all over again when I don't have a lot of things to choose from and I'm trying to use up some of the pantry staples before a big restock. I like to just keep bread going because bread gives me options. I can always use it to throw together a quick sandwich, to serve it alongside something else to make the dinner stretch a bit. I can't overmake sourdough. Again, I left this dough out all night long because my kitchen is nice and cold. You can see it got really puffy and fermented, but it did not over ferment. It really retained its structure. I knew I could get away with that because of the temperature of our kitchen. Now, both of these that I showed you, the bread I made yesterday and then this bread, I am just skipping the fridge rise altogether. You can do bread in a very accelerated manner if you skip the fridge rise. Now, it won't have as beautiful of a scoring pattern. It'll be a little harder to get your razor blade down in it because the bread is soft and so it doesn't cut through it as nicely. But you can get bread on the table pretty quickly. So I mix up the dough, do some stretch and folds throughout the afternoon, let it sit overnight. The next day, shape it, put it into some bannetons, cover with a tea towel, and then within a couple hours, I'm able to bake those loaves and have them for a meal. The other day, we were at a farmer's market, and there was a business there selling a sandwich that was eggs, melted cheddar, bacon on sourdough, all toasted and delicious. Not that I didn't know that that sandwich existed. It sounds very, very basic, but it just inspired me with how delicious it was and how expensive it was, you know, to buy sandwiches at the market, which I love supporting small businesses. So that's totally fine. But I got to thinking, why don't I make these at home more? My kids love them. We have so many eggs all the time. We keep tons of cheese. I always have sourdough. We should be eating breakfast sandwiches all the time, but I forget about them. And so it just inspired me to make that for a dinner meal, not just for breakfast, but breakfast for dinner is one of our favorite things because it can be pulled together so quickly. The kids devoured them the other day at the market. So I thought, why not use up more of the eggs that I should be preserving but did not this year, that are sitting in the fridge, and we just need more times of the day to eat them than breakfast. They're a great protein source, and when I'm running low on meat, eggs can step in. I toasted them with some reserved bacon fat just to give them a nice golden color, and of course repeat for all of my kids. They love this kind of sandwich. All right, I still have in the fridge 1 random pack of stew meat and 1 pound of ground deer meat. Neither of those are enough on their own, and so I'm going to combine them together and make chili that will have all the normal chili ingredients, some stew meat, some deer meat. If you add enough salt and tomatoes and beans, no one will notice, and chili powder and all that good stuff. Since I'm not using canned tomatoes, I am also going to add some more bone broth. I still have quite a bit of broth from my pork bones and my chicken bones. And then I'll just put the lid on, simmer it, add some beans, and I am ready for a restock. I'm ready to place a huge Azure Standard haul and get some more flour and wheat berries for my grain mill. I'm ready for a freezer full of meat from my sister's farm. And for all of those delicious, wonderful options, it's fun to sometimes for a week just use the things that you have on hand.